Nilambur was touted to be the most important by-election in Kerala, and for the sole reason that the results which were declared this morning are set to be a precursor to the 2026 assembly elections in the state. Let's now turn our attention to the results declared this morning, which saw an impressive turnover of more than 75% casting their votes on 19th of June. Aryadan Shoukath of the United Democratic Front UDF, son of veteran Congress leader Aryadan Muhammad, who represented Nilambur for 34 long years, delivered a resounding triumph in the Nilambur Assembly by-election, defeating Left Democratic Front or LDF's SM Swaraj by a significant margin of 11,077 votes. Even as early leads were indicative of Shoukath's victory over Swaraj, throughout the 19 rounds of counting, Shoukath finally secured 77,737 votes, securing 44.17% votes, as against Swaraj, who got 66,660 votes with 37.88%. What is also interesting is that Shoukath had lost the 2016 Assembly elections to PV Anwar, and until this morning it seemed very doubtful if he would be able to gain his foothold. But then with this victory, political fortunes of Shoukath has got a major leg up. An interesting candidate here is of course PV Anwar, the rebel with a cause, who quit the LDF after training his guns against Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, targeting Additional Director General of Police Law and Order M.R. Ajit Kumar and Chief Minister's Political Secretary P. Shashi on the charges of criminality and corruption, and joined the All India Trinamool Congress as state convener. He came up with a very impressive performance, that's what experts are saying, polling a significant 19,760 votes and accounting for 11.23% of the total votes cast. The BJP's attempt to woo Christian farmers in Nilambur came a bit of a cropper, with the candidate Mohan George campaigning and securing only 8,562 votes, which is 4.9%. I'm asking you, is Nilambur more a win for Priyanka Gandhi, considering that Nilambur is part of, Wayanad? Is it also a forewarning for Pinarayi Vijayan that there is a tough road ahead of him? And what about the BJP? Is it also an also-ran syndrome, as it has always been? Will the tide change so far as the BJP is concerned? This is Nilambur. Let's debate. Nirmal Ibrahim, which the political analyst, is joining us, and Mithun Vijay Kumar, political analyst, is also joining us. A very, very warm welcome to both of you. Nirmal, let me start with you. Nirmal, do you think major leg up for the Congress? We know that Shoukath has legacy there. His father, of course, won 34 times, but then it was not an easy road ahead of him. A lot of people are saying, well, it's thanks to Priyanka Gandhi. I would beg to differ. It was he himself and also others who had campaigned very, very vociferously for him. Nirmal Ibrahim, what do you think added to the victory of Shoukath?
Well, I think for once, you'd have to congratulate the UDF for the teamwork that they put in, because usually you don't see that a lot with the UDF. Right. But this time around, all the youngsters, all the young Turks, and that would include, Chandi women, everybody. I mean, all of the young leaders as well as local leaders went door to door to ensure that they put the message across to the people. And also all the confusion that surrounded PV Anwar might have helped as well. And third, obviously, the anti-incumbency factor would have helped as well. So I think these are the three factors, although I believe it was a teamwork of the UDF that actually contributed largely. Now, about
also, sorry to interject, but this is the first time since 2021 that they've been able to wrest a seat from, the LDF. Don't you think that's a major achievement?
Absolutely. Not only is it a major achievement in that case, it's also probably the highest majority since the last delimitation that the UDF got in Nilambur, or any party got for that matter, in Nilambur. So I think it's a great achievement. But as far as PV Anwar is concerned, I do not share the same opinion as that, as was told in the introduction, because if you compare PC George's failed attempt in 2021, he was able to garner 40,000 votes, even after making all those controversial remarks. So it puts PV Anwar in a bit of a tricky situation, because it's like the UDF doesn't really need Anwar to win in Nilambur, is what the numbers showed. But the LDF might actually require him. No, I think that it might, the UDF might eventually accept Anwar because he isn't asking for the Nilambur seat in 2026 as it appears. He might ask for another seat, possibly against Mohammad Riaz, the son-in-law of Pinarayi Vijayan. But yeah, I mean, 20,000 is way, way less than we expected because he projected himself as a very strong independent candidate like PC George. He said he might get 40,000 votes. People expected at least 25 to 30,000. So I would say he went a bit below par. That puts him in a tricky situation, although a useful, political candidate as far as the UDF is concerned. And I would also not rule out him going back to the LDF ultimately, if and only if Pinarayi Vijayan decides to move out of the way and there's another leadership coming in, he might eventually go back to the LDF as well, because his issue isn't primarily with the LDF. His issue is with Pinarayi and Pinarayism, as he calls it. All the family rule and the controversies and the corruption surrounding Pinarayi and his family. So, yeah, you never know what's going to happen. But as of now, it looks like the UDF might take him in.
But which seems to me, like UDF okay, but LDF, it seems like a near impossibility. Mithun Vijay Kumar, welcome to the show. Such a pleasure having you on the South Indian, Mithun. I want to ask you that, do you also think, bypolls across India have become very important. Every poll is fought like an assembly election, like there is no tomorrow. But this one gains a lot of traction because it is right now when 2026 Kerala goes to polls. Do you think there is a deeper political meaning in this, Mithun Vijay Kumar? As in the resurgence of the Congress, I'm using the word resurgence with very careful consideration. I'm also talking about Sunny Joseph. I'm also talking about V.D. Sadison. But do you think it is a kind of a message for Pinarayi that, look, your 9-year run is something that you don't take for granted?
Thanks for having me on the show. So coming to the topic, I think what we saw in Nilambur was, not just a routine election. It is a verdict on the larger political mood in Kerala. Like you said, it's a message for Pinarayi Vijayan. And coming to your question on whether it's a win for Priyanka Gandhi, I don't think it is a win for Priyanka Gandhi. This is a win that is engineered by local dynamics and communal alliances. Aryadan Shoukath won because of ground level mobilization by IUML and Jamaat-e-Islami to a good extent, not because of any leadership push from Priyanka Gandhi. And if you look at the numbers, in 2021, LDF had secured over 81,000 votes, which was around 47% of the total vote share. But this time it has come down to 66,000 something, which is roughly 38%. And there is a decline of 9% in just 3 years. Now, that kind of drop doesn't happen in isolation. It reflects a growing disappointment with the LDF government, especially after 9 years of rule, where many have felt unheard, whether it's matters of local development, tribal welfare, or day-to-day governance. When it comes to a constituency like Nilambur. So there's clearly an anti-LDF sentiment building up. The real question is, who is able to capitalize on it? And this time we can see that Aryadan Shoukath was able to do it, because in politics, it's not just about the sentiment, but also the ability to channel, the vulnerabilities into electoral gains. And in this case, the UDF has managed to do it well. But, I say this carefully. It was not a clean victory. Even in such a favorable climate, where the public sentiment is against Pinarayi government, they had to lean on certain, fringe factions like Jamaat-e-Islami to consolidate their position.
Right.
So
but do you think also Anwar played a spoiled sport in the sense that he cut into the votes? I mean, he was not somebody, I mean, he did gain. I mean, I thought he did, but others may disagree. But do you think his main role was to cut into the votes and spoil the game, as it were, Mithun Vijay Kumar?
Yes, definitely he has cut into the LDF votes, but like you said, he's the most interesting candidate in this election.
Indeed.
And Anwar is a phenomenon of his own. He's known for his unconventional style. He still has a personal clout in certain pockets of Nilambur, and that showed. And he pulled nearly 20,000 votes, mostly from traditional LDF supporters, and the damage was critical. Although he didn't win, he made sure that CPM didn't win either.
Right. So, Nirmal, you and I have been on shows where we've spoken about how BJP is making inroads into the minority communities in Kerala. Will it work? Won't it work? I mean, let's look at the candidate, Mr. George. I mean, they fielded this man who's a Christian, obviously, in what is a Muslim-dominated constituency. And of course, they came a cropper. I'm not sitting on judgment, but then elections is about judgment. Do you think a completely wrong judgment so far as the candidate is concerned? Or you think, for God's sake, they had no chance on it? Apparently, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar was of the view that we should not be doing anything there because we don't even stand a chance, Nirmal.
It's true, but I have a feeling that they could have maybe gone with a better candidate. That's a first feeling. It was a feeling of surprise and shock for most people. His name was announced. Either way, I don't think BJP stood a chance. Maybe an additional 1% with another candidate who had roots in Nilambur, who was in the BJP for a very long time instead of capturing some from the Congress party. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a wrong choice, but either way, it wouldn't have made a difference. As far as Anwar is concerned, as Mithun rightly pointed out, the difference that the UDF, I felt, Mithun mentioned that it was not a clean win. I'm not sure how to argue with that, but I would say that if you look at the numbers, even with PV Anwar on one side and the LDF on the other side, the Congress was able to maintain the number of votes. I mean, they barely lost 500 votes or 700 votes. So that's a great achievement, because what PV Anwar eventually did was try to make inroads into UDF votes. That didn't work out, and it also shows that the UDF, if they're able to take in Anwar, it means that he has local roots. He's been very helpful to people, no matter how bad he is as a person or whatever business or controversies he has. So taking in Anwar would eventually help the UDF. And the LDF factor that I mentioned is probably only a fantasy. If Pinarayi moves out of the way, who knows? He might eventually move, because we've seen Anwar swing both ways. So I'm not really sure about Anwar and where he would like to go at this point of time.
Mithun, a lot of editorials are being written even as you and I are speaking. I will stick my neck out, and I don't think that this is actually sitting on judgment on Pinarayi Vijayan. Whether he makes it back yet again is something we'll have to wait and watch, and we never punt on elections. Do you think Anwar's allegations of corruption and criminality on Pinarayi Vijayan's team has even rubbed off even a little? Would you think it really mattered in Nilambur? Did it? Except that the permutations combination changed. He became from Trinamool, BJP was there, Congress had to field Shoukath, and then, Pinarayi's party fielded Swaraj. Apart from that, did it even stick on Pinarayi Vijayan? Will it matter in 2026 is my question to you.
See, there is a growing anti-incumbency in Kerala, and Nilambur is one of the finest examples, I would say. If you are looking at the corruption cases, or the number of charges leveled against the LDF government, I think almost every corruption is leading to the chief minister's office directly. This is one of the unique cases where you see that every corruption charge is going straight to the chief minister's office. So people are aware of the situation in Kerala, and in many ways, like I said, this was not a direct LDF versus UDF contest. It was more of a Jamaat-e-Islami versus PDP dynamic, two extremes playing out in a very sensitive constituency. So we can't say that this could be an exact prediction of what's going to happen in 2026, whether UDF is going to get an upper hand in the 2026 elections. No, technically I would say that the Congress candidate won, but we must acknowledge that this victory belongs partly to the hardline allies they had to rely on. And the fellow panelist said that I was pointing out at the extreme elements. See, it was openly acknowledged by VD Sadishan that Jamaat-e-Islami is not an extreme party, and PDP's alliance to LDF is openly known. And now, as far as BJP is concerned, they had made it very clear that they were not in this race in the beginning. So what is encouraging for them would be that their vote base has remained steady. There has been no leakage, they could say. And in a constituency like Nilambur, where traditionally BJP's presence was considered minimal, that's actually a sign of achievement, is what I would say. And the whole idea is that LDF is losing its grip in this election. UDF is depending on certain extremes, and BJP is quietly holding ground. That to me is like the real story of this.
Maybe that's your theory, but I really don't think the BJP it's holding its ground. But is the needle moving for the BJP? I don't think so. Nirmal Abraham, ultimately it seems like Nilambur was more about permutations and combinations, about wooing the right kind of other parties who are supporting them, rather than an issue-based elections. So would you say that is one of the reasons that Pinarayi's corruption really did not come to the forefront, because it is not about Bijli, Sadak and Pani there at all?
No, but it still is an indication of how the 2026 elections may play out because there is clear anti-incumbency. It was different in 2021. If you look at Kerala's history, every 5 years we used to have a different government, either the UDF or the LDF. But last time around, because of a number of factors like COVID and the floods and how he managed to manipulate people based on his PR work that he did, all of that, it turned around. But this time around, there is clear division within the Communist Party, which is very, very rare to see. And people have been making, even M.V. Govind then said the other day that there is no such thing as Pinarayi, and Pinarayi was visibly upset with that as well. So I would say the only chance that I see LDF winning or even having a remote chance of winning in 2026 is if Pinarayi Vijayan moves out of the way. And that's a very, very rare likelihood. But if that happens, it could be a tight contest. If not, I think it would end up probably like Nilambur. It's going to be not an easy win, but a remarkably good win for the UDF in 2026.